We'll just get right into it. Palantir is down 30% since we last talked. Last time we talked, it was at 125. Now it's at 85. How are you feeling?
Well, do you remember that you asked the same question just after the Q4 results? And my answer was like, rich, finally. And it's like, oh, poor again. Well, I can't really complain, okay? But I think it gives you a perspective on how strong is the psychological factor in investing. Like, we're essentially at the same prices we were just before Q4. But it feels like, oh, that's so bad. And essentially, in these last days, I was bombarded by people. Oh, but this is scary. This is, look at the pre-market. And it's like, yes, but at the end of the day, it means that we had a sort of irregular jump, or maybe just too strong jump. And how markets work, sometimes you go a little bit overstretch in one direction, sometimes you go a little bit on the overstanding in the other direction. So at the end of the day, it's a process called price discovery. You try to hit the boundaries to see also how people react to those different boundaries, and over time the price converges to what the company is truly worth, or at least at what people think it is worth. So I consider this volatility part of the day. And what to me is really important, but I think we'll go deeper later, is there is no a specific narrative or thesis breaker here. Like Palantir is down. People will tell you because Carp sold, because I don't know what was the other. Yes, because of the defense budget cuts. And it's like that is the narrative. That is not really the reality. Otherwise, you would not see Palantir essentially cloning the stock price movement of Robinhood. Just to give you like very simply, if Palantir stock moves exactly like Robinhood, which has nothing to do with it apart from being in the high beta cluster, that's a hint to me that there is nothing really wrong with Palantir. It's more, okay, asset managers, gestorazzi, essentially wanted to cut the exposure to over like a super high beta because we're scared. Let's go more conservative and let's buy Apple that is a more conservative stock. We see that, for instance, stuff like Apple and the big tech in general moved way less. So that's my reading.
Okay. Matt Money, your raw reaction to the 30% decline from the top.
Excited. And you know, not because I am feeling convicted, right? And you know, the whole macroeconomic environment right now has been challenged with tariffs and things of the like. So, but I think to me, and it's not just about Palantir, it's just things seemed like they were running off a little bit off the top too much. And to me, as somebody that always is looking for the long term, 10, 15 years out, and is eventually going to use these opportunities and in the portfolio to borrow against for, you know, living or for borrowing other assets or building other assets, I want to get these at cheaper prices. So buying stuff like Rocket Lab, buying stuff at Palantir. Well, I haven't started buying Palantir yet, but it's starting to at least pique my interest, being down 30, 35% for the peaks. It makes me excited to know that we're that much closer to being able to actually start dollar cost averaging into the stock again. So for me, I'm excited, and you know, I don't want anybody to lose money. So you know, hopefully that doesn't come across crass. Of course, you know, apologies, but for me, I'm a long-term kind of minded investor, and I'm going to continue to buy the stock. I want to get to 10,000 shares. I haven't gotten there yet. So if I have the opportunity to, I would love to get there.
Dom, your thoughts on this price action?
I was on mute. My bad. Yeah, no. I feel like, you know, you never arrive when you fully have an investing career. It's a journey, but I will say I felt really comfortable in the fact that, you know, I have a very concentrated portfolio. So NVIDIA, Tesla, Palantir. I mean, 90% of my overall wealth took a substantial hit, in the last couple of weeks. I feel calm as ever. Like nothing thesis breaking at all has happened with those three companies. And I've seen so many bears and value investors coming out, showing charts of where Palantir's valued and how it's so high on the P. I get it. High P, price of sales, high PE, all that good stuff. But what is really comforting is that people don't even know where to price this thing at. Like some analysts have it going to 115, 150, others have it going to 20. It's like a half and half. And then they say, well, the 8% budget cuts. The 8% budget cuts are going to be better for them because the things that actually deliver ROI are actually going to be what are kept. So it just shows you how much we really do have a lazy society and don't do a lot of research. We get a headline or we get some tidbits on a juicy clickbait, and then people just say, okay, well, I guess they're right? Instead of like looking and understanding what the company does. I saw someone else post, Antonio Lindris, who we see on X a lot. He said, right now it kind of feels like NVIDIA 2016. And I would 100% agree with that, because what people don't understand is the compounding effect. When you look at like how Salesforce got to be Salesforce, it took so long to get to that adoption where it actually grew, and then it was just mass adopted. Same thing with these chips with NVIDIA. It took a lot of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears from those employees to get to the vision, get to what happened, the planning, and then the expansion. And so you still have like half the world not knowing, understand, more than half the world not knowing what Palantir is. So I'm excited. I mean, this is just like another chance to get in basically right before earnings.
Amir, your thoughts on this 30% drawdown?
Palantir dropped 30%. I never watched. Well, we've kind of been saying this on the weeklies and in commentary that honestly, to me, it felt like it was just a matter of time before the stock crashed. I mean, there were no negative catalysts in forever in Palantir, not the business, not the stock. So on the pricing side, it was trading at over 100 times price to sales, 600 plus PE, and on the valuation side, it was getting close to impossible to tell a probable scenario that would justify trading at 125. And the only reason it even got there was because the business just had such momentum and there were no negative catalysts attached. I mean, Palantir was just executing over a very long period of time and there wasn't anything negative to latch onto. So that's why the business had momentum, and that also translated to the stock. So even though the news, for example, with the budget cuts, they weren't necessarily bad for Palantir. As you guys mentioned, you could even argue that any government spending decreases actually strengthens Palantir's proposition because they actually deliver value. And when you have less of a budget, you can't waste as much of that budget. It has to go to valuable contracts. And all I can say is that last time I made bank on Palantir, the business was getting stronger and the stock price was unjustifiably dropping. And that might be similar to what's happening now. Actually, I recently valued Palantir again, and the prices at the start of the trading day, I think it dropped to 78. That's not too far off from fair value to me. So, I mean, I'm getting excited to hopefully be able to buy Palantir again for the first time in what feels like forever. So yeah, I'm not upset or anything like that. I tend to never be, but yeah, I think it kind of was written on the wall. Like, I think most people expected it to have a pretty violent drop at some point in time, and that's just because there was nothing like negative. So even something adjacent like this budget cut news that we got, or like Alex Karp selling, or the usual thing, like just anything adjacent, even though it's not necessarily negative for Palantir, people took that and ran with it, and I think it was kind of written on the wall that it was just a matter of time.
Bears were craving for this to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I noticed as soon as the drop happened. I think that the velocity of the drop is what shocked everybody. It was literally at 340. The headline of the budget cuts came out in the Pentagon, and I agree with you, Dom. That's bullish for Palantir, not bearish. And Palantir went from 120 to I think 12, and then the next day 100, and then the next day 95, and then now we're here at 85. And so it was a really quick 30% fall off, but it was also a really quick 30% move from 85 to 125. So